It's time for Southern Fried Baseball, presented by College Baseball Central. Hosted by Jake McKeever as he talks everything SEC baseball and more.
Welcome back, college baseball fans. Again, another great week in the SEC. Got 2 more weekends down to go. We got great ones tonight with Auburn and South Carolina. Andrew, as you can tell, I'm kind of in my car, and you're in your normal spot, if you will.
Yeah. It's been raining in New Orleans all day. By the time we're recording this on Wednesday, it was raining all day in New Orleans, so I couldn't really do anything. But then you got to go out and see some baseball.
Dampered up the parade celebration for Loyola University. Want to give a big shout out to Loyola for going to the dancing, if you will.
Yeah, first ever time we've won our conference tournament. So big shout out to the boys getting it done. I finally got to hold the trophy today, and yeah, she's a beauty.
More to come. LSU Shreveport, better watch out, if you will.
Oh, yeah. 51-0. Those are some big boys. Hopefully we get them in Lewiston.
I would take Loyola over LSU Shreveport 2-3.
Okay.
Well, let's go ahead and jump into the SEC action. We have one Thursday. It is Auburn versus South Carolina. Probably the biggest story for South Carolina is Ethan Petrie is done for the year. Paul Mainieri is still there. He mentioned on his radio show that he has no plans to leave. He has a $5 million buyout. But let's get into the X's and O's in the series. South Carolina is going with the TBA on their rotation. Who do you think slides into that Sunday role, if you will?
For South Carolina?
Yes, for old Cocky.
I keep on hoping it's Dylan Eskew, but it never seems like he is either fully healthy or he is fully at 100% performance-wise. And he's a fun pitcher to watch, but obviously this year being a roller coaster year for South Carolina, he hasn't been able.
Roller coaster as an analogy, by the way. Roller coaster implies ups. I don't think there's been any ups.
Well, for Eskew, there has been. He's shown potential, but then every time he gets hit in the head during batting practice, it seems like he gets knocked down a ton. But yeah.
But just quietly, if Missouri didn't exist, one of the worst teams in SEC history, by the way.
Yes.
It is a monumental collapse. Statistically, again, if you remove Missouri this year, they're the worst team in the SEC. Again, they were eliminated from contention officially last week. They would need to win the SEC tournament to go to the dance. I think South Carolina paying a $5 million buyout and spending another $5 million to hire a high-quality coach is more likely than them winning the SEC tournament outright.
Yeah, I think if a donor did come up with $5 million just to send Paul Mainieri into retirement again, I think South Carolina fans are wishing they had $5 million.
I said this on Twitter with Missouri, but I will pose the same thing to South Carolina. If South Carolina miraculously goes on a tournament run and wins the SEC, I will donate $1,000 to the NIL General Fund. So you can go ahead.
I will not match that. I will not match that. It's just, I just don't see South Carolina. It's just like Auburn should take care of business. They're not speeding up Dutton for tomorrow, which really it would have been
that Friday roll.
Yeah, which is technically still speeding him up technically because he did throw on Saturday. But Christian Chatterton's back in that Saturday role. Cam Tilley tomorrow. I assume that'll be like a bullpen game for Auburn. Cam Tilley to probably Cade Fisher, unless they really like Cade Fisher following up Chatterton on game 3. I really like Auburn's just rotation, pitching, and the more their offense, like the more I watch this offense, the more I love it.
Yeah, it's a really good offense. Again, we talked about the revolving door that was that Sunday. I actually went and looked. They've actually been pretty good on Sunday in terms of wins and losses. They've been able to outslug a lot of their opponents.
Yeah.
We talked about the last few times on the show about Chatterton moving back into that Sunday role. Again, he was demoted off of that. I think he's really earned the right to pitch in those SEC games based on his outings in the midweek. But again, I really like the dynamicness of the Auburn offense. Like, they have guys that can hit the ball all over the field and all over the yard, and Ike Irish and Cooper McMurray. They have guys like Bob Terrell, Derek Fabian, who can really kind of single W, be really athletic, and a very balanced lineup. And it's one that I think we need to start talking about them hosting. Like, it seems to be talking about it. And I think it's like with the Bama slide, I think Auburn's going to slide in and kind of be that host.
Yeah, I feel like we should be talking about them potentially being a top 8 seed at this point. So if they take care of business against South Carolina this weekend, I think they will sweep.
Yeah, which again, you and I both predicted sweeps for them. I think it's going to be a highly contested one, but I think that really just I will say this. I think South Carolina has folded the tent, by the way. But yes, they were in a lot of those SEC games. Like, remember that Oklahoma series that they were really competitive in? A&M they were really competitive in. There's been a few others. So, I mean, that just shows you how close the margins are, if you will, to South Carolina. But, again, I don't think they're going to be looking for a new coach. But the flip side of that is, for a program that is as proud as South Carolina, I don't see Palmineri sticking it out another year. It's like a really rock and a hardship, if you will.
Yeah, I think they're kind of like tell them, like, look, you're either going to have to adapt to this new style of baseball. We're going to have to force you to bring in someone to help you, because I mean,
that's
just
Monty Lee was supposed to be the guy that was in there to help him.
Yeah, but then he retired.
Did Monty Lee retire?
Right? No, he didn't retire, but I think he's like talking about retirement.
It's a complete and total mess. It's the equivalent of it's that toxic girlfriend that all of your friends know that you're going to break up with on graduation, but like you still see him out at the movies. Is kind of the analogy. Like, I thought he was breaking up with so and so, and then they hang out again. Palmineri has been an absolute disaster in every sense of the word. Those kids deserve better. I've talked to a few scouts that have said, because I made the joke to one of my friends who's a scout about, do they fire Maneri? It sets them up to tampering, is what my buddy said. And I said, I don't think there's anybody to tamper. And he said, no. He goes, there's a lot of guys that we like on that roster that I think just need the right coaching.
Yeah. This I'm looking at their roster right now. I'm looking at the names, and it's like a bunch of just like, I remember watching these kids play summer ball, and it's just like these kids are like legitimate studs. And just given the right opportunity with the right coaches, I feel like they can, like...
I challenge anybody, and you can clip this. I challenge anybody to go and find me a single pitcher that has developed in the past year. They've had an ERA drop. They've had more strikeouts or anything like that. I think every pitcher has regressed. I don't think it's their fault. At some point, if it's one guy, it's like, okay, maybe that's just a bad fit. But every single person on the staff has regressed in some sense.
Which is crazy, because Terry Rooney, their pitching coach, he was with him at LSU. He's developed some really good LSU pitching talent, like Aaron Nola, Kevin Gossman, etc. And then he was there. He was back with their development program and recruiting LSU last year.
He's a really good, I should say.
He's a really good pitching coach. I'm looking at his bio right now because I was just like looking to see like who else was on. He helped develop Justin Verlander at Old Dominion. It's like, I don't know if it's the game outgrowing some of these coaches with how they're getting older and whatnot.
But he still recruits. That's the part that's so weird to me. Is he spending? Yeah. Is it a theory again? Is it a theory where, hey, the last coach recruited guys that we don't like, so we're punting this season and we're going to bring a bunch of guys in that I think I value in terms of pitching coaches? Do you think that's what it is? Is that he's already, instead of it being a 50-50 recruiting trail, 50-50 development, it's like a 90-10 recruiting versus development?
Yeah. Yeah, I think they're kind of like, but you wouldn't understand. I don't think they would have done that this year, because you look at Mark Kingston, and Mark Kingston landed on his feet perfectly, and he's going to take over at Creighton next year.
And they're going to the tournament. They remind me of a basketball team where it's really they've like a clique of guys that it's just like they're cool being at South Carolina. I think they're cool wearing the gear. They're cool going out to the bars and saying, hey, I'm the cool guy on the baseball team. But there's no edge to this team. I feel like they've been going through the motions for about a month.
I mean, we've seen it with the South Carolina Snapchats that got leaked out earlier this season of them being at the bar. What was that? The Clemson series?
I think, I think it was the Clemson series.
Yeah.
It's just been a abysmal year for South Carolina. The fans deserve better. The players deserve better. I would say even the coaches, to some extent, deserve better. I know that's weird to say because it's kind of like.
I know what you're saying. Because like these guys do, like you expect a lot from a Palmineri-led team, and these coaches probably came in thinking, okay, wow, we're back in the SEC. We're going to be competing to be the top of the SEC like day one. Like we know what the South Carolina program has been because Paul Mainieri also coached against it in the early 2010s and late 2000s.
I mean, yeah, they were going to Omaha a lot when they were at LSU. It's the players are going to blame the coaches, and the coaches are going to be like, we should have better players. Like it's a completely weird scenario. But I have Auburn sweeping. You have Auburn sweeping. What's the next one you got on your docket as you're the host?
The next one, I want to save this one a little later, but the next one we are going to talk about is Ole Miss is heading to Dudy Noble to play Mississippi State, who has still not lost a game under Justin Parker. I'm pretty sure I took Ole Miss to take this series, even though there is the whole Mississippi State owns Ole Miss.
Who did I take? I don't remember who I had on the graphic.
You took Ole Miss. I took Mississippi State. Caleb took Mississippi State. And Micah took Mississippi State. So you're the lone wolf taking Ole Miss here.
Mississippi State fans, you can thank me. Like I said, Mississippi State has pretty much dominated Ole Miss. I know that they lost the Governor's Cup this past season. Mississippi State did, that is. I really think Ole Miss is going to bounce back because they've won every single Sunday game on the road. And I feel like it's just so improbable that they get these tremendous starts from Hunter Elliott.
Yeah.
And the guy across the way just outpitches Hunter Elliott. Because Hunter Elliott hasn't been bad. It's not like I would go as far as to say I think he's the SEC pitcher that's been the most consistent. He's 6 innings, 2 runs allowed every single time.
Yeah, he's been very consistent. The only problem that he has had are his walks.
He works around them, though.
He does.
But it does drive his pitch count up.
It was against Vanderbilt 2 weeks ago, where he went, I think, 5 innings, 2 hits, 0 runs, struck out 6, but he also walked 5.
Is that the Thompson start where he struck out 15?
JD Thompson struck out 15 against not Ole Miss.
I think for Ole Miss, I think they'll fly out Mason Knowles. I've talked to a few SEC coaches that absolutely rave about Mississippi State's bullpen. And I think that there was some mismanagement from Chris Lemonis. And I think you and I talked about it, 2 days ago, about how Chris Lemonis would go to the press conferences and say Justin Parker has complete autonomy over pitching staff. And the way that Justin Parker has managed the staff has just been great. We've seen a lot of the parents like some of our tweets saying baseball is fun in Mississippi. That's been kind of funny to see. It feels like we've talked about it with other teams that when the pressure's on, sometimes you just need to relax and play like they have nothing to lose. That's what Mississippi State's done. And at the end of the day, they still have nothing to lose. The dude's going to be rocking this weekend. It wouldn't surprise me if they break some attendance records.
Yeah.
I might flip that one to Mississippi State. I don't know if the Mississippi State contingency might kill me, but I really like Mississippi State in that series. It's a good lineup. It's a lineup that's clicking at the right time. They're starting to get productive ABs from Ross Heifeld down at the bottom of that order out of that catching spot. Ace Reese is, he's working himself into that dark horse category, if you will, for SEC Player of the Year. I think he's a few steps back, but I think his name should be on that short list of top 5 for SEC Player of the Year.
Yeah, I agree. He's been a top 10. I think I'd go a little far with saying he's been a top 5 SEC player, but I think if he was to return next year, he would be a top 5 candidate. Do you want to talk about the Chris Lemonis quote that came out today?
Yeah, if you want to read off his quote.
So Chris Lemonis, we got our first. He wrote a letter.
By the way, I think his Twitter was hacked, or he got locked out of his Twitter.
Yes, he got locked out of his Twitter. He said it has been an honor of a lifetime to serve as the head baseball coach at Mississippi State University. As a son of a proud MSU graduate and a lifelong fan of the maroon and white, my earliest memories are filled with egg bowls, the sound of cowbells, and reading through my own copy of the Ron Polk playbook. This program has always been close to my heart, and having the chance to lead it has been nothing short of a dream come true. While we didn't accomplish every goal we set out to achieve, I take full responsibility for everything that happens within this clubhouse, on and off the field. It's a responsibility I never took lightly. I've been fortunate to coach some truly remarkable young men and to witness them create unforgettable moments at the Dude. The relationships built during this journey mean the world to me. These players have enriched my life in more ways than they'll ever know, and I will always be here for them whenever they need me. The guys graduating this weekend. The most difficult part of stepping away is saying goodbye to the community we've come to love. I wasn't sure what to expect when we moved to Starkville, but it didn't take long for the special team to feel like home. Though other opportunities came along over the years, nothing ever felt like the right time to leave because our hearts were here. I have no regrets about accepting the opportunity to lead the Story program. While there are always things one might wish to do differently, we shared countless meaningful moments together, none more special than the unforgettable night in Omaha in 2021. Winning the first national championship in school history and celebrating on the streets of Omaha was the most passionate fan base in college baseball is a memory I will carry with me forever.
At the end of the day, he is a national championship winning coach. He really did give this job his all. Ultimately, down the stretch, it didn't really work out the best. He lost to some of the donor base down the stretch.
Yes.
He recruited at a very elite level his entire time there. He did a great job having these teams mesh. They just always seem to underperform. And obviously that 22 season, they lost a little bit of that edge and really were never able to regain it back. As we kind of track the new head coach, everything that I've been told around that job is that new coach is still coaching, whether that be in a capacity, whether it be in a head coaching capacity. They're going to keep that one pretty quiet, close. I've seen Justin Parker's name floated for the South Carolina job. So, but the flip side of that is Gary Henderson took his squad all the way to Omaha and won multiple games in Omaha and didn't get the job offer. So it's a tough job. Mississippi State is very prideful about who they hire as a head coach. Selman's job is on the line, is what I've heard from a lot of the donor bases. So I think that they're going to go out and make a splash home run hire. I think my top two right now would be Chris Pollard, but I've also heard from a few around his camp that they'd be very shocked if he left. And then Nolan Cain, I think would be the one that if I were Mississippi State, I would feel the best about Nolan Cain taking that job. Yes, he's an assistant, but he is a world-renowned recruiter. He recruited Dylan Cruz to LSU. He recruited Jace Lavalette to Texas A&M. He absolutely killed Texas's recruiting in this past year in a good way. I think Nolan Cain would be a superb hire, and as a former Mississippi State student, I would be elated if Nolan Cain took that job.
Yeah, me and you have basically heard the same thing. I have heard that. I heard Fitzgerald, the Kansas coach, as the job, but we've heard that it'd be also shocking if he left Kansas for Mississippi State because of how he loves it in Kansas right now.
Yes, Kansas sets him up for success. Obviously not in the sense that Mississippi State sets their coaches up for success, but the flip side of that you need to remember, as we kind of learned with some of the past coaching searches, just because something is a better job on paper doesn't mean it's a better situation for a coach to go there. Whether it be job, money, living in a city, I think is a big thing. And Starkville, for better or for worse, isn't the easiest city to live in if you're a, older woman who's married to a baseball coach. So that's the one thing that you really do have to consider. But back to the series itself, I really like Mississippi State. I think that the offense gets loud and crazy in one of those games. Mississippi State has to win the series before Sunday, I think is my theory.
Yeah, I think if you can get good pitching outings from Pucon, you get the pressure to Elliott early, you force him to make mistakes, you force him to walk guys like he's done in the past, and then you give it to who's going Saturday, you think, for them? Ligon?
Yeah, and then Stone will go on Sunday.
Yeah, I really like this Mississippi State team. I think they're figuring it out at the right time. I think that they're going to go on a run these next 2 weekends to push the needle to get into that safe category.
Yes, they sit at 10-14. 6 games to go. They are really chasing that 14 number. They can get to. Because I don't think they have a few bad losses in terms of OOC. They do get 3 with Missouri. Good news is Missouri is winless in the SEC. Bad news, they're basically the boogeyman to Mississippi State fans, as Mississippi State doesn't have the best history with Columbia. They always kind of seem to piss down their leg when they go and play Missouri. Missouri will also be chasing history in a bad way. I think that that's a really important series, that if you're Mississippi State, you win 2 of 3 this weekend, so you can kind of just relax, feel really good about it. But again, Ole Miss is kind of in that tier of OU, Auburn, Vandy, where they're good enough to be a host, but they're probably going to have to be a tough 2 somewhere. It'll be really interesting to see what the committee does with Ole Miss, especially with these last 2 weekends going forward.
I think Ole Miss will end up next weekend against Auburn. That will be a showdown of 2 teams. Whoever wins that series will most likely host.
Yes, obviously OU's still in that mix. Whatever's left of Alabama, if you want to transition to that one.
Yeah, we can talk about that one next. Next is the Georgia Bulldogs. No update on Rylan Zaborowski as of right now. We'll head to Tuscaloosa to face off with the Alabama Crimson Tide. Alabama coming in 13-11 in the SEC. Georgia is 15-9 in the SEC.
Yeah, it's going to be an exciting series. I think Bama is going to stick with their rotation of going Quick and Adams on Saturday and Sunday. Georgia's obviously a very dynamic lineup. Georgia is doing their back-to-back road series. While Georgia's road record is better than a lot of people in the SEC, 3 of those are with Missouri and 3 of those are with Florida from the beginning of the year. I think a lot of people aren't talking about how bad Georgia is on the road compared to at home. They are just a completely different ball club when they go on the road. I mean, I know that they went 3-0, but they looked bad against Missouri all weekend. If they play anybody other than Missouri, they probably get swept.
Yes. Me, you, and Micah went with Bama. Caleb is the lone dog going with the Bulldogs of Georgia. I think this Georgia lineup it looked so bad without Rylan. They look lost without Rylan.
But this was one of the harder series to pick for me. I know that sometimes we talk about both teams being hot. This was the opposite. Like, Bama's been going in a funk the last month. And again, it's been propped up by Missouri, so it looks a lot better than it is. And then Georgia's terrible on the road, and it's propped up by Missouri, so it looks a lot better than it actually is. Like, I went back and forth. It was like Bama hasn't looked like the same team in the past month for whatever reason. Georgia's terrible on the road. I was like, I feel like Georgia's more – I trust Bama to turn it around more than I trust Georgia to miraculously fix their road woes. That was the logic for me.
I think Georgia will take Friday with Curley on the mound. And then, obviously, Bama has the pitching upper hand with Quick and Adams on Saturday and Sunday. I think that sets them up really nicely, especially when teams don't have their strongest starting pitching on Sundays.
The interesting thing is they went Oz to close out both Saturday and Sunday. Obviously, the Sunday one wasn't the outing that I think he would have liked to have had. I'll be interested if they go Friday, Sunday. I think that's where they should really use Oz.
Yeah, I think I think Saturday too. Last week he got quick outs. That's why they were able to have full confidence in bringing him back for Sunday. And then Vandy realized we need to just work the counts against him, hit the ball hard, and force their field to make errors. And that's what happened on Sunday.
Do you think Georgia's starting pitching kind of returns to the mean? I know that they pitched extremely, extremely well up at Georgia. Leighton Finley's kind of started to look like that ace at the top end of the rotation. I know he's pitching on Sunday, but if I remember correctly, he was up for that Friday started at the beginning of the year with Colton Smith. The bullpen was really good.
Yeah.
It's shaky in SEC play. I said that was more due to overuse because they were using them so much so early. Do you think that the bullpen that Bama can tag up that Georgia bullpen?
Yes, pretty easily. I mean, outside of Brian Curley, I still don't feel really good about this Georgia lineup, or not Georgia lineup, but Georgia pitching staff. I mean, Charlie Goldstein. I mean, we're talking about a guy that started Friday nights for them. He's not really like in the mix in the bullpen anymore. Alton Davis too. JT
Quinn's another one they've used.
JT Quinn. It's like they have all these guys that like you expected to have success under Wes Johnson because of how good of a pitching mind he is, and it's just like I don't know if it fits his ballpark or just whatever it is. Jake is doing this on his phone, by the way, so he did black out for a minute.
Yeah, I did have a call on my back.
Yeah, you're back. You're back.
Does my screen look okay? On my screen, it looks like I just have like a little sliver.
No, yeah, you're in.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, I look normal.
You look normal. Okay, you want to talk about? We got probably one more, and then we're gonna get into the heavy hitters.
Yeah.
That one is Oklahoma, the number 16 Oklahoma Sooners. Will go into Kentucky. Kentucky 10-14 in the SEC. Oklahoma 13-11 in the SEC. They did get into that safe area. I think we all went Oklahoma this series. We did all go Oklahoma with Caleb saying they were going to sweep.
I really like Oklahoma too as well. I got to see Oklahoma up close and personal this past weekend. I know that they dropped that game on Sunday. It was actually the first time I'd ever seen Oklahoma lose, as I've seen them win, even in Omaha. But I think OU, a lot of people make a lot of noise about the Witherspoon twins, and rightfully so. I think they're the best, sandwich, if you will.
Yes.
Especially Kyson on Friday night. Every single weekend, you feel like Kyson's going to get it done. He's going to be a first rounder. I think the lineup's really dynamic, and they play really good defense, I think is the big thing. Jason Walk, Dason Harris, Kyle Branch plays like a shortstop at second base. Jackson Willits at short is, I think, one of the best shortstops that no one talks about defensively.
Willits starting to get hot. Willis, the Eunice transfer, he's starting to get hot. It's just a lot of this lineup for Oklahoma is like starting to get hot at the right time. And then obviously you got the Witherspoon twins. Malachi's been struggling, but I still have like full confidence in Oklahoma. Saturday, we do get a good pitching matchup, which should be Nick McKay against Cade Crossland. I feel like that'll be a very...
I know that Ben Cleaver and Nick McKay didn't really have the best starts last weekend. Do you think that they kind of bounce back? What's kind of the story with them that you're seeing as our pitching guy?
I mean, I think it's just them, like, they're struggling out early. So when they are finally like settling in, their pitch count's so high that Nick Mingione's forced to pull the plug on them. Like Mississippi State last week, it felt like they had the scouting report on them right away and was like, you know what? Like, we know we got to attack early, get their pitch count up, get them out early. Because they know, like, the Kentucky bullpen is not the best. I feel like we've never talked about the Kentucky bullpen because we've always talked about Nick McKay and Ben Cleaver, but it's because...
It's the island of misfit toys, I think is the best way to describe it. They have a lot of guys that have a very specific role, and if you get them out of that specific role, I feel like there's a lot of susceptibility compared to other SEC bullpens.
Yes.
They don't have your prototypical 97 from the left side with nasty break. That's the part. I really like OU, and I hate to say this. I think OU might get into the hosting conversation over Auburn, Alabama. I think Alabama slips out. OU quietly has a very similar record. They did submit a bid, I might add. I think OU is a dangerous team come postseason time. They have a good bullpen in Bodine. They have good starting pitching. And they are fast. Like, they're a really fast team, and speed never slumps.
Their RPI to host right now, their RPI is 21. So they got Kentucky this week, Texas next week. I think if they go 4-2, they could be into that conversation to host?
I think they go 5-1.
5-1. You think they go 5-1, or they need to go 5-1?
I think they go 5-1.
I think they can go 5-1 too. Next weekend they go to Texas.
Texas comes up to Boomer.
Texas goes to them. Yeah, that's a whole. I mean, we've talked about it, how the Red River rivalry is not really that big in the baseball, especially around this time where it's so late, where you got students taking exams, students moving out, the students might not.
Last time it got chippy though. Remember, they had that weird thing with the rain delay, and there's no love lost between those two schools, I should say.
Well, yeah, of course, especially with Jim Schlossnagle getting his first full taste of this rivalry. He's gotten it from the Big 12 point of view when he was with TCU and A&M. I mean, there's not really that big of a rivalry, I feel like, between TCU and Oklahoma. But
no, not at all. There's not really. I think Skip's more of a JUCO guy, so there's no common ground between them. Yeah. I think this is good old-fashioned. I'm from Oklahoma. I hate Texas. I'm from Texas. I hate Oklahoma. That's my thing with this one.
Yes. Okay. Now we're starting to get into the heavy hitters. We'll get into my personal favorite series of the week. The Missouri Tigers. They go to Bluebell Park and face off with the Texas A&M Aggies. 0-24 versus 10-14. A&M needs a sweep badly. They get into that 13 win range. They're safe, but you have said it on the show for this is if A&M loses a game to Missouri, this is the most Texas A&M thing ever.
Yes, I should say this. On Friday night, Missouri needs to win. On Friday and Saturday, if they lose 2 of 3 this series, period, it will clinch the worst record ever in SEC history since the expansion. That's going all the way back to, I believe, 1990. It would be the worst one, as the lowest wins that we've ever had in the SEC is 5, and it's happened a few times. Missouri has been playing better baseball. Their injury stuff is starting to get a little bit weird and a little bit more played out. Ian Loesch is in the bullpen, and he pitches in midweeks now.
Yeah.
But I did see something on Twitter that it would be the most Aggie thing ever for them to take 2 of 3 from LSU and lose a series to Missouri and go 3-3 across these weekends. Because then there's going to be talking heads like me and you that go, well, we expected them to go 3-3. It didn't really matter how they got there. They need this one desperately. Missouri needs this probably even more.
Yeah.
Weird to say.
For their pride, yes.
Yes. Texas A&M will go to Georgia next weekend. If you can get to 13 wins in College Station, you can almost guarantee you can do it. If you can get a little pride and get going that aspect, I think that's what they could really do. A&M hits, I think, pretty good. Their bats have started to come around. It's just, does Michael Early do enough of testing to also win games? Because when you kind of get into that midweek mindset of weird stuff happening to try and find matchups, to find extra pitchers, they could get a walk guy and you blink and you're down 5-2 in the 6th.
Yes. I mean, A&M does come into the series with a little bit more rest as they canceled their Houston game due to inclement weather.
I will say this. It was very stormy. I don't think they would have got that game in anyway. There was flooding all around Houston. Did save their RPIs. Their RPI was set to drop 2 points with a win and 50 with a loss. A&M's RPI is probably going to drop about 3 points due to playing this Missouri team and this Missouri team being so bad. They need to come out, handle business, win all 3 games, have as low stress as you can if you're Michael Early. Because, I'm going to be honest with you. I think I've talked to a few schools. They are very glad that they played Missouri early because they said, one, the psychology of playing a shitty winless team is very low because you think you're just going to mess around. And they're good enough to steal games. Like, if you've seen they've been in series, you have to feel like law of averages says they're going to come up good. But again, this is all about A&M. This is the first time I think that everybody in the national media is picking somebody to beat A&M. For A&M to win since that first weekend.
Yeah.
So how they handle that, I think, will tell the story about them.
Okay, next up is the Florida Gators are heading to Austin, Texas to face off with the still number one team in the country, the Texas Longhorns. Florida is entering 11-13. Texas is 19-5. Texas can clinch the SEC regular season championship this week. That
Yes,
is,
I think they need they're 2 up on Arkansas, so they need whatever they need to do is they just need to get.
I'm looking at they are. It's not telling me games back, is it? 19-5, 17-7. So if Texas takes 2 out of 3 and Arkansas drops 2 out of 3, they are good. Yeah, Texas would win the regular season championship.
No, they would need more than that.
Huh?
They would need 2+ games because Arkansas holds the tiebreaker over them technically.
Yes, but if Arkansas drops 2 out of 3, Texas takes 2 out of 3, it would be
Florida, I think this would be a big one for them because Texas hits RPI of 1. They would get that signature win. They've been the hottest team in the country. They've been playing the best baseball, I think, of any team in the country. I mean, they're just the Widowmakers. They got Chris Lemonis fired.
Yes.
I went with Florida.
Yep, me and you went with Florida. Caleb and Micah went with Texas. Me and you have kind of hinted it on this show that we were going to be taking Florida this week.
Yes. It was the beginning of the end, I feel like, for Texas. They got a little bit out over their skis a little bit. I think that they kind of shut down Dylan Volantis. That's my kind of hot take, is that they throw him in very limited action. Obviously, Arkansas, they only had 1 game for him to pitch, and he did pitch. I'm really curious to see where they go with that Sunday role. I think Luke Harrison has a bounce-back start. I don't think Ruger Riojas has a bounce-back start. I think Florida kind of tags him early. But it'll be interesting to see what they do with that Sunday role.
Yes, Florida is getting healthy at the right time as well. Liam Peterson, obviously the SEC rotation isn't out right now. But
you going to go Saturday?
Who? Peterson?
Yeah.
I was going to say, if anything, I do assume Aiden King to throw Friday because of that. It'll go King, Peterson, Coppola on Sunday. I think they'll announce it as TBA, but it'll be the worst kept secret in all of the SEC. It'll probably be Coppola throwing Sunday so he can start fresh out of the gate. He looked good against South Carolina last week. He only went 2 2/3. And he looked very good. I think Florida's getting healthy at the right time. We don't have an update as of right now about Cade Curdlin.
I do have one for you, though. I do have a little nugget. Max Blue is starting to do drills for the Texas Longhorns.
Yes. I don't assume he'll be back for the regular season. I think he'll be ready for the conference tournament. And even then, I don't think they'll push him for the conference.
They need Mendoza and they need Rodriguez, I think, to get closer to 100% that those two are. Because I think that's where this team really becomes dangerous, is if they can slide Rodriguez into third, move Mendoza to second, and have Blue DH. I think that's where this team's the best. Yeah,
the less stress you have of Blue being out there, because he did break his hand catching a fly ball, huh? Or like...
Yes. No, I think he took a foul tip. Like he got hit in the hand, I believe is what it was.
It was stories. But yeah, this Texas team, I think they kind of they're starting to run out of that magic. One stat I did see about their pitching staff.
They're number 1, right?
They're number 1 in ERA. They have a 3.50 ERA, but their expected ERA is a 4.52. That ranks 14th in the SEC.
That's interesting. I forget the kid's name, but we talked about how they only had Volantis and one other bullpen arm. Do you start to feel like that Texas bullpen is turning into a weakness? Because Volantis probably isn't going to get used as heavily. I assume that Grubbs, after those two, like, it really is a roller coaster, like every other bullpen in the SEC. Like Sonier's been really good at times, and then at Arkansas, he didn't really look that good. Flores has looked really good at times, then hasn't.
Yeah, I think like that's what we'll start seeing these next 2 weekends of like they know they've already clinched this.
Navarre more? Do you think that that's where it comes from? Is Bryce Navarre starts getting more innings? Because he pitched on Friday or on Thursday in mop-up duty in a meaningless inning. Do you think that we see more Navarre?
Yeah, I mean, I think they're going to start giving more opportunities to guys not named Dylan Volantis, not named Max Grubbs, to kind of make sure we've mentioned it. Volantis is a freshman and Grubbs is a junior, but you obviously want those arms fresh for postseason
For the run.
play. Yes.
Yes. And that if you're Texas, again, you can stay on the right side of a weekend, but you likely need 4. Am I frozen or are you frozen, Andrew?
No, I'm here.
Okay. As I say, you likely need a 4th starter. And Texas right now with Spencer out, I feel like they only feel good about 4 pitchers, and Volantis isn't going to start.
Yeah, I mean, they tried starting Grubbs earlier this season when they were in Vegas, but it still feels like they trust Grubbs out of the bullpen. They trust Volantis. I don't think they'll start Volantis. Rojas, you don't know which version of him you're going to get. It feels like now, especially since we started seeing a little inconsistencies on Friday nights. Luke Harrison, he's been phenomenal all season, but yet again, he's kind of a roller coaster. It should be an interesting weekend.
Yeah, do you think we see the Ruger Riojas that we saw at the beginning of the year where he's shutting guys down on Sunday? Or do you think it's the one that does sidearm stuff and gets hit 450 feet?
I think we're going to see the sidearm stuff. I think it's a mental cue with him like thinking, I need to switch up my arm slots. I need to show different arm slots with different pitches so the hitter can't get a full read on me. But yet, I feel like pitchers don't realize these kids are also watching film of you like 10 hours before the game. So they know like what to expect. They know you're going to throw low to mid 90s from up top, and then you'll drop down and throw a weird ethos in there at times.
Yeah, I will say this. Pitching in the SEC is extremely, extremely hard. The way that Ruger Riojas was pitching at the end of the year was phenomenal. I think if he can go 7 innings and give them 3-4 runs, they feel really good about that. It sets up a lot of that stuff in the bullpen. If Texas can get back to chasing, 9 outs on a Friday, 9 outs on a Saturday, you'll feel really, really good about their chances. I just think Florida's too hot for the Texas Longhorns, if you will.
Yes. Going into our second to last series of the show, the Vanderbilt Commodores at a record of 34-15, 14-10 in SEC play will travel to Lindsey Nelson to face off with in-state rival Tennessee, 38-11, 14-10. Liam Doyle will probably get the start Friday, fresh off his 2-game suspension.
I hope he learned his lesson.
So did I. He pushed that kid way, way too hard.
Yes. For that, Tennessee's going the wrong way. Vandy's been up and down, but we mentioned it, that Mississippi State always seems to dominate Ole Miss. Since Tony V got to Tennessee, it feels like Tennessee always dominates Vandy.
Yes. Friday night, we talked about it. We talked about it a couple weeks ago with Liam Doyle versus Cade Anderson. J.D. Thompson versus Liam Doyle, I think, is going to outshine that.
Andrew, I love my analogies. This is a Caddyshack series. This is, Judge is Vanderbilt, Tim Corbin, Old Money, Little Bitty Boat, and Tennessee's, Rodney Dangerfield shaking around, playing music all over the place. That's what this series reminds me of.
We all went Tennessee in this series. I do think it's going to be Tennessee. I think Tennessee bounces back after dropping 3 straight SEC series. They finally start to look right. This lineup, Tony V has been playing with it. We haven't seen we've seen Gavin Keelan at shortstop. We've seen multiple people play at multiple positions. It seems like he's still trying to figure out this lineup, not even from an offensive point of view, just from a fielding point of view. It feels like all the defensive woes we talked about with Texas A&M earlier this year are like starting to unravel with Tennessee now.
Yeah, I mean, obviously you mentioned it. Dean Curley back on that LSU series, I think is going to stick with a lot of people in college baseball's minds. If you remember correctly, the whole point of him being at short early in the season was so that Andrew Fisher could play third. Andrew Fisher's actually turned out to be a phenomenal first baseman, so they're going to leave him there. Do they start doing Ariel as like a defensive replacement late in games and having Keelan play short?
I think you have to. I think you have to because Ariel's bat is not good. We've seen him have good at-bats against good pitching, especially in that LSU series. But I think it's just too big of a risk coming now late into the season where you can't just be handing teams out like free outs. And I'm not saying Ariel's free out. I'm just saying his at-bats are not as good as some of their
Keelan, Manny Marin, Bargo. But is there any worry that you move Fisher over to third and then slide a Bargo into first? I don't think that they do that, but I mean, it was working at the beginning.
Very good in the outfield.
Yes, and Abernathy really has played really good in the outfield too. There's a lot of guys
very athletic out there, so
there is one consistency. Ainsley's going to play center.
Yes,
he's
going to play center. Cannon Peebles will probably catch unless he's hurt. So yeah.
So Tennessee's lost 4 or 5 series.
Yes, they lost that A&M series.
Beat Ole
Miss. And it doesn't get easier. So they dropped that one to A&M, beat Ole Miss, dropped to Kentucky, dropped to LSU, dropped to Auburn, and then you got Vanderbilt, and then you finish off the season at Arkansas, which
that's gonna be a fun one. And Arkansas's got a ton to play for a top 8. Tennessee's going the wrong direction really quickly in terms of they really, it was almost a must win, if you will, at this point in the season.
Yes, but I think they will take care of that. That leads us into Arkansas, probably the series of the weekend in all of college baseball. That's where I will be this weekend. Our other correspondent, Alex Day, the LSU reporter, our other LSU reporter will be there for a top 5 matchup, which I'm a little shocked to see LSU still in the top 5.
Well, they had a chance to be 1, is what Kendall was saying.
LSU? I did see that LSU beat A&M. They probably would have moved LSU there. Do you know if Kendall's going to be there this weekend?
I don't know. I have no idea. I can ask him.
I do assume this will probably be a heavily covered event this weekend, but I will be there with Alex Day, our other LSU.
Riley.
And
Koki Riley.
Oh, Koki's. Oh, yes. I don't know. Yeah. Arkansas, obviously 17-7. They're in second place. LSU 15-9. They are tied for 4th in the conference. I took LSU. Everyone else took Arkansas. I think LSU's just, I don't know how to word it. I'm trying to say I think LSU's going to take 2 out of 3, but I think Arkansas I think Arkansas might be the best team in college baseball.
Everybody is saying that. I will say this: if you're LSU, you can hold your head high after the past weekend at A&M. Yes, you lost 2 of 3, but you had a home run in the 8th inning, and then they had one guy just forget how to play baseball that lost him a game. You know that you're not going to get that every single game, if you will. So if you're LSU, just kind of flush it and move on. They get Cade Anderson, who MLB Pipeline has as the number 3 overall prospect in all of college baseball. He will go Friday against Zach Root. Zach Root, who told LSU no, I might add.
Yes.
He was a recruit, so there's a little bit of a chip on your shoulder from them. I went with Arkansas because It's the same reason I went with Arkansas last weekend against Texas. I didn't see Arkansas dropping 4 series and they go out and sweep Texas. I don't see Arkansas losing 4 or 5 series in the SEC. I think they're just too talented of a team for that to have happen. They're starting to figure out the starting pitching. Reese Robinette's playing really, really good. Reminds me a ton of Heston Kjerstad. And the Eloy Bash brothers are still hitting the cover off the ball. I think that this is our series. I think it goes inverse of Tennessee. Like
Arkansas, LSU, Arkansas.
Split on Friday, Saturday. I think Cade Anderson beats Zach Root. Gage Wood wins his start over Anthony Ianson. Anthony Ianson's just been so damn good, though.
Yes, he has.
I might flip that. I might flip Root. Root on Friday, and then Ianson. Iason's just so damn good.
But Gage Wood, it seems like he's getting
for
better.
A bad one, though.
Huh?
I was going to say, Ianson's due for a bad start, if you will. Law of averages.
He had one against Tennessee.
He shoved against Tennessee.
I mean, they lost.
He shoved against him.
We did hear Tony V say after that game, if you go over there and ask Anthony Ianson if he shoved, he would have said yes, probably. I think the best chance for LSU to take 2 out of 3 is if they do take that Friday against Zach Root. Zach Root, like he said it, Friday, or people come out and watch me like throw 8 innings, not 4 innings. This LSU lineup's also been a mess. So it's a perfect opportunity for him to just absolutely demoralize this LSU lineup.
So I know at the beginning of the year when you and I were doing these preview shows, we talked a ton about how LSU's offense didn't really lack oomph, if you will, that they reminded us a ton of Vandy the year before. Obviously, they kicked the absolute crap out of some inferior opponents at the beginning of the year. Is this LSU's lineup being in a rut, or is this what LSU's lineup just is?
I think it's what LSU lineup actually is.
I think it's in a rut.
No, I've watched this lineup way too much, and it's like we've started to see now Jay Johnson kind of panic. He's moved Derek Coryell to the 4 hole, moved Jared Jones to the 1 hole to lead off, and it's like, what? Like, no, like Coryell was doing a phenomenal job leading off. Just because he didn't reach base one time doesn't mean you need to panic. And I understand trying to.
I'll say this about that, as you know, the resident hitter after the show. I actually like it because Bear Jones is your best hitter, undoubtedly, right?
Yeah, but
more at bats. Coryell he doesn't really work counts. I've noticed he really does kind of trying to attack in that 1-1, 2-1 count. If he's ahead, he's looking for his specific pitch. He doesn't like. I know that the old adage is that he's a super athletic guy that he should hit leadoff, but I feel like he's better as a 2, 3, 4 hole guy. And LSU doesn't really. I know that Bear is obviously a monster and a big power guy, but they don't have 2, 3, 4 guys. Like I don't think Pearson's a middle of the order guy.
No, that's the thing too, because it's like you have John Pearson, Josh Pearson, you have Jake Brown,
Frey,
Ethan Frey. Ethan Frey's a good 3 hole against the lefty, but against righties he kind of doesn't do that much damage.
I wouldn't say that they platoon too much because the numbers do back up what Jay Johnson is philosophizing.
Yeah,
that Larson is really good against right-handed pitching. But I mean, the weirdest one was that okay, A&M has Weston Moss pitching. We're going to announce Ashton Larson as the pinch hitter. Okay, we're going to go with Caden Wilson as our left-handed pitcher. Okay, well, we're going to counter with a right-handed batter. It's just, I think that Jay's afraid for Ashton Larson to hit left-handed pitching. And there's something, is it a psychological thing with his leg? Is it the numbers from last year? Is it that they saw him hit in the fall?
I think it was something in the fall. Ashton did struggle in the fall against lefties, against Cade, against
but everybody struggles against Cade Anderson.
But against Connor Ware, Cooper Williams, he's a very hittable pitcher. He doesn't strike out that many guys. And once just more guys in this LSU platoon have hit lefty pitching better. I mean, we saw it with Pearson. Pearson was sent out to go face Liam Doyle, and he actually worked decent at bats against him. So
I think that they break out. I like Milam to kind of have a little bit bigger series.
yeah,
Stanfield's been good enough. Brazzi, I think, needs to kind of have a monster weekend, if you will. But I just like Arkansas. Like I said, I don't see the Hogs dropping 4 or 5 SEC series at all.
Yeah. One last thing we will leave you off on as we are recording this. The first availability report came out for Auburn and South Carolina. Nothing shocking, as we already said, Ethan Petrie is out this weekend. And then for Auburn, Alex Petrovic and Clinton Harris are out. One thing, Bo Hollins is probable for South Carolina, but yeah, that's it. I mean, Auburn should take care of it with or without Petrie. So
yep. Once again, thanks everybody for tuning in. We will see you back Monday for a live recap show with all the reactions from this weekend. Andrew, like he said, will be at LSU versus Arkansas. I will be at Texas versus Florida on Saturday. I'll be at Texas A&M, Missouri on Friday. So the Vanderbilt Commodores are going to be the lone elusive SEC school that I will have not seen this year.
Well, thank you guys for joining.